when I was looking through all the readings for today, there were quite a few topics you could talk about, even though they're not very long. So I thought, I could do a Ken Dodd style sermon, if you remember him. But the dinners might burn. So before you look too worried, I decided to pick one. And I concentrated on the verses in Mark, verses 33 to 35, just a little bit of it. I'll read them again just to remind you. They came to Capernaum when he was in the house. He, that's Jesus, asked them, "What were you arguing about on the road?" But they, the disciples, kept quiet, because on the way they had argued about who was the greatest. Sitting down, Jesus called the 12 and said, "Anyone who wants to be first must be the very last and the servant of all." Now, that's the bit I'd like you all to remember beyond today. Anyone who wants to be first must be the very last and the servant of all. Many people in history have claimed to be the greatest. There's one. You remember him? Some of you might think that's Muhammad Ali, but actually when he said it, he was Cassius Clay and he changed his name later. But he said that when he was hoping to become champion of the world. And he then went on to beat Sonny Liston, and that was the first time he became champion of the world. But before it, he said, "I am the greatest." Somebody else who made a similar claim was Brian Clough. Now, I don't think you expected me to talk about Muhammad Ali and Brian Clough this morning, but still. Brian Clough said that although he might not be the best manager in the world, he was in the top one. Commentators on sport, I don't know whether you've seen it, at the beginning of the sport programmes and that, when they chat forever before it starts, they argue amongst themselves who was the greatest at this, who was the best at that, and go through all their favourite players. The thing is, what we should remember is Jesus' response to his disciples. Anyone who wants to be first must be the very last and the servant of all. You don't get that by shouting your mouth off saying how wonderful you are. You might think I'm doing that this morning, I don't know. Now it's my turn to stand here today and talk to you. I mean, more often, as he is at the front today, Richard's here a lot more than me, and there are other people we see at the front. We saw the readings, and later we'll see the prayers. They're the prominent people, aren't the ones you see. But does prominent mean more important? That's the question. Does it mean these roles make people greater than the rest of the people in our church? I wonder if I must have a big rosette, what do you think? I am the speaker today. It'd be good, wouldn't it? Now, it was this thought about greatness that led me to 1 Corinthians chapter 12. I'm sure some of you know what that's all about. And so I'm not going to read it. It's quite a long chapter, I think. And in it, Paul talks about parts of the body and how all parts are reliant on one another to function efficiently. There's lots of vital parts in our body, aren't there? There's your heart. That's quite important, isn't it? Your brain, your lungs. You all think of lots of, but those parts, can you see them? You can't, can you? You know they're there because they're working, but you can't see them. Well, our church has people doing vital jobs that we don't see as well. For instance, who's going to clean the place? We don't often, Sunday morning, imagine watching people go around dusting the windowsills and hoovering the floor. It happens at other times, doesn't it? We don't see them. But imagine coming into a dirty church. Ooh, smelly toilets. Nobody wants to do that, do they?
No.
So that is one of the most important jobs in our church, is to make it look nice. Also, who put out the chairs this morning? Who knows who put the chairs out this morning? Nobody put their hand up, so I presume nobody knows. But they're here, aren't they? Where would we sit? I wonder how many people would feel welcome if they came into the church and all the chairs were stacked on the side and they said, oh, just help yourself, you know. So, all these things are important. Again, I'm sure we can all think of lots of things that we don't see that people do. There are tasks which we see people doing and we think to ourselves, well, I wouldn't want to do that, maybe, or it sounds a bit laborious, not very important. Like, as we've done in the past, refreshments after church and washing up afterwards. All important. Now, it's easy when it comes to events like Messy Fun Day. When it comes to those sort of events, big events, we get everyone to clap for how well we've done. We're wonderful, aren't we? We've got all these people coming. It's great. And we can have the people most involved at the front and give them a big clap. But when do we cheer on our cleaners? When do we cheer on the people who do the refreshments and the washing up? Those people do it because they see it as important, not for the reward that they're going to get out of it. The thing is, our body needs parts, small parts, that the big ones, the important ones, couldn't work without. Imagine the heart pumping blood and there's no veins and no arteries. It wouldn't do us much good, would it? Imagine just having a brain and not having anything to carry it around. So we need the people who make things work to do things. They're really important. The thing is, we need everyone involved. Look around, how many of us are there? Certainly not 100 of us, are there? Not this morning, anyway. How many people are in our parish? A bit more than 100, I think. In fact, we're outnumbered by at least 100 to 1. Now imagine trying to cope with those odds, especially if only a limited number are doing the work. How do you get round everybody? How do you reach out? The thing is, we want St Paul's to be a light to the community around. We want them to see it as a vibrant, welcoming place. We don't want to see it as a nice little cosy group that people go to on a Sunday morning. Well, I don't, anyway. So, some of you might think, well, I wouldn't know what to do to help out. The thing is, there's nobody in this room who hasn't got skills. Nobody. Could be skills to pray, it could be skills to wash up, it could be skills to hoover the floor. There's nobody who hasn't got skills. Maybe somebody who's better at this than who's doing it at the moment. Should be too hard to find, should it? And so, at St Paul's we're going to run a course called Shape. Right? Have you ever been to a pottery class? Or got a piece of clay and you mould it around, see what shape you can make it into? Well, this isn't to make you into a shape. This is to help you discover what your shape actually is. It's not to learn anything, it's to show what you can do and ways in which you could help out. The letters stand for spiritual gifts, that's the S, and it's your spiritual gifts, not the spiritual gifts you're going to pick up on the course. It's the same with all of them. H for heart's desire. What do you want to see? A for abilities. What skills do you have? P for personality. And E for experience. The sessions are run in a relaxed, friendly way. It is important that we all feel comfortable and relaxed in each other's company. To know that we can freely express our views in an atmosphere of confidentiality. Nothing escapes the room. Everyone can say their views without being shouted down by somebody else who disagrees with them. At the end of the course, there will be an opportunity for an individual review, so you can reflect on what you've gained from the course and what actions you may take as a result. The SHAPE course has been running for several years now and has proved its worth. It's recommended by our diocese and the Church of England, and if you look on what they recommend, it's high up on the list. Following the next PCC meeting, we will announce exactly when it will run. Please feel free to discuss it with Richard or I. All I ask is that you remember that St Paul's needs you. Jesus needs you. The people around St Paul's need you. Let's make sure that the Word of God rings out so loud from St Paul's that all around are unable to ignore it. And just in case you're a bit worried about course, it is very relaxed. It only runs for 6 weeks. It's not a big commitment. And remember that verse I asked you to hang on to. Anyone who wants to be first must be the very last and the servant of all. Thank you.
Thank you, Gordon.